Most people think Stoicism is about killing emotions. That's wrong. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. Emotions aren't the problem. The problem is when you let emotions decide who you are, when you let fear tell you where to go, when you let anger choose your words, when you let sadness stop your life. The Stoics knew this. They didn't try to erase emotions. They trained themselves to lead them. Because emotions are natural. But letting them control you, that's optional. Every day you face this choice. Do I run my mind, or do I let my feelings run me? Most people don't choose. They react. They get angry and say things they regret. They get anxious and freeze. They get sad and stop trying. Then they blame life. But life isn't the problem. It's the story you attach to your feelings that hurts you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." And feelings? They're part of the mind. So why do they feel so strong? Because you feed them. You replay the thought. You add more fear. You tell yourself stories that make the feeling bigger. That's where the suffering starts. Not in the feeling itself, but in the way you treat it. The Stoics practiced something simple. They noticed the feeling, named it, and then decided what to do next. That pause, that's everything. It's the difference between reacting and responding. Imagine this. A wave hits you. You can try to stop the ocean, or you can learn to surf. That's what Stoicism teaches. Surf the wave. Don't drown in it. Feelings come and go. They rise. They fall. But you can stay steady underneath them. The mind that leads feelings lives in peace. The mind that follows feelings lives in chaos. So which one are you training? Most people train reaction, panic, rage, overthinking. But you can train calm. Train reflection, train clarity. It starts with one thing, awareness. Notice the feeling before it becomes action. You don't need to fight emotions. You need to guide them. You don't need to pretend you're not angry. You need to ask, is this useful? You don't need to pretend you're not afraid. You need to ask, is this true? That's how you become free, not by killing feelings, but by leading them. Because if you don't lead your emotions, they will lead you, and they won't take you anywhere good. Your feelings are real, but they're not always true. That's a hard thing to hear, but it's freedom once you get it. Your mind tells you that every emotion means something permanent. That fear means danger. That anger means injustice. That sadness means failure. But feelings are just signals, not facts. Sometimes the signal is wrong. Sometimes it's just noise. The Stoics knew this. They didn't treat every emotion as a message to obey. They treated emotions like weather. You don't panic when it rains. You adjust. You don't yell at the wind. You steady yourself. Feelings are the same. They come. They go. But if you don't know that, you become a slave to your mood. One day you're happy. The next you're broken. One moment you're motivated. The next you're stuck. Why? Because you believe the feeling instead of observing it. There's a difference between saying, I feel anxious, and I am anxious. The first is awareness. The second is identity. The Stoics always chose the first. They watched their own minds, like a scientist, not a victim. They asked, is this feeling useful? Is this feeling accurate? Is this feeling guiding me or misleading me? That's not cold, that's clarity. Most people confuse reacting with feeling, but you can feel deeply and still choose your response. That's what Stoic calm looks like. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about caring wisely. It's about feeling the fear and doing the right thing anyway. It's about feeling the anger and choosing discipline over explosion. It's about feeling sadness and still showing up for life. That's emotional mastery, not because you don't feel, but because you don't get lost in the feeling. Feelings are waves. You can drown in them, or you can ride them. The wave is not the problem. Drowning is. So how do you stop drowning? You stop believing every thought your mind throws at you. You pause. You breathe. You remind yourself, this is just a feeling. It will pass. Because it always does. Nothing stays. Not happiness, not fear, not rage, not grief. Everything moves. The Stoics called this impermanence. They welcomed it. Because when you know feelings are temporary, you stop letting them trap you. You stop overreacting to the moment. Because you know it's just a moment. That's freedom. It doesn't mean you're numb. It means you're stable. It means you don't build your identity on what you feel in one bad hour. You don't burn your life down because of one bad day. You breathe through it. You watch it pass. And when it does, you're still standing. That's the goal. To be steady in the storm. Not because there's no wind, but because you've learned how to stand. You can't choose what you feel, but you can choose what you do next. That's where most people get stuck. They think control means not feeling, but real control means feeling fully and choosing wisely. The Stoics called this self-leadership. It starts with noticing the feeling and not obeying it automatically. When you're angry, pause. When you're afraid, pause. When you're overwhelmed, pause. That pause, that's your power. It's the space between the emotion and the action. Most people don't pause. They react. They send the text they regret. They quit when they should keep going. They snap at someone they love. Then they say, I couldn't help it. But that's not true. You always have a choice. It's just hard to see it when the feeling is loud. That's why you train for it. Not in the middle of the storm, but before the storm comes. You practice now. Practice noticing. Practice pausing. Practice choosing. Over and over. That's how you build the mind you trust. A mind that doesn't betray you when emotions rise. A mind that stays steady when life gets messy. At Inner Fort, that's what we're training for. Not to be perfect, not to be emotionless, but to be aware. To build inner strength so we don't collapse every time the world shakes. If this feels like something you already knew, but forgot, subscribe to Inner Fort and turn on the bell. We're here to help you lead better. Because leading yourself is how you lead your life. Nobody is born with emotional mastery. It's not natural to pause when you're triggered. It's not automatic to stay calm when you're afraid. It's not easy to choose patience when you're angry. But that's why it's powerful. Because it's a skill you build, not a trait you're born with. The Stoics practiced this daily. They didn't expect life to be easy. They expected emotions to rise. They expected fear to whisper. They expected anger to knock on the door. And when it came, they were ready. Not because they didn't feel, but because they trained. They trained their minds the way a fighter trains his body. Calm is not an accident. It's a repetition. You practice it until it becomes natural. It's like lifting weights. At first it's heavy. At first it feels impossible. But you don't stop. You don't give up. You keep lifting. And eventually, the weight gets lighter. Emotional strength is the same. You start small. One moment of pause. One moment of breath. One moment of choosing not to react. Then you do it again, day after day, until one day you notice you don't explode like you used to. You don't spiral like you used to. You don't fall apart when life gets loud. You stay steady, not because life is easier, but because you're stronger. That's the win. The Stoics weren't chasing perfection. They were chasing progress. They knew that mastery isn't about never feeling. It's about learning to lead the feelings instead of letting them lead you. Imagine your mind like a wild horse. If you don't guide it, it runs wild. It drags you through fear, through panic, through regret. But if you learn to guide it, it carries you. Same mind, different rider, same feelings, different response. That's the shift. From victim of emotion to leader of emotion. It's not about fighting your mind, it's about training it. Every morning you wake up, you get another chance to practice calm, to practice clarity, to practice courage. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep coming back. When you get angry, notice it. When you get scared, notice it. When you get overwhelmed, notice it. Then pause. Then breathe. Then ask, what would the strongest version of me do next? And do that. Not the easiest thing. Not the comfortable thing. The right thing. That's how you become the person you admire. Not by dreaming about it, by doing it, by practicing it in small moments, over and over, until calm becomes your default, until patience becomes your habit, until fear shows up, and you look at it like an old friend instead of a master. That's freedom. Not because life gets easier, because you get stronger. The world will always test you. Your mind will always offer you panic. Your body will always send you signals. But you don't have to obey the first thought. You don't have to ride the first wave. You can notice it and choose a better one. That's Stoic strength. That's emotional mastery. And like any mastery, it's built one decision at a time. Most people think emotional mastery is about big moments, the argument, the crisis, the decision. But the truth is, it starts in the small ones. How you breathe when you're late, how you respond when someone interrupts you, how you handle the tiny frustrations that no one else sees. That's where the training happens, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. The Stoics called this preparation. They didn't wait for life to get hard to build their strength. They practiced in the quiet moments, so they were ready for the loud ones. Every time you choose calm over panic, you build a muscle. Every time you choose patience over anger, you build a habit. Every time you pause instead of explode, you rewire your brain. That's not a metaphor, that's biology. Neuroscience says the same thing the Stoics did. What you repeat becomes who you are. So what are you repeating? Are you practicing reaction or reflection? Are you rehearsing fear or training courage? Are you feeding chaos or building calm? The good news is, you get to choose. Even if you've spent years reacting, you can choose to lead. Even if you've been ruled by emotion, you can decide to train now. It's not too late. It's never too late. The Stoics believed in practice, daily, quietly, without applause. They didn't care about looking strong. They cared about being strong when no one was watching. That's what emotional mastery is. It's not for show. It's not for Instagram. It's for you. So you don't have to live as a slave to whatever feeling shows up next. So you don't lose whole days to anger or fear or regret. So you don't ruin relationships because you forgot how to pause. So you don't miss your life because you're stuck in your head. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow, and instead of reaching for your phone, you reach for your breath. You sit quietly. You remind yourself, I don't control everything today. but I do control how I meet it. That sentence, it changes everything. It sets the tone. It reminds you, you're not here to dominate the world. You're here to lead your mind. Most people never learn this. They think life controls how they feel. But the Stoics flipped that. They knew how you feel starts with how you think, and how you think is something you can practice. You don't have to get it right every time. You just have to keep coming back. Back to the pause, back to the breath, back to the choice. That's where mastery lives. Not in the absence of emotion, but in the space around it. The space where you decide, I am not this anger, I am not this fear, I am not this panic. I am the one who chooses what happens next. And when you do that, you're free. Not because life gets easier, but because you've learned how to lead yourself through whatever comes. At the end of the day, it's simple. You either lead your emotions or they lead you. And where they lead you is not always where you want to go. Fear will keep you small. Anger will burn your bridges. Sadness will stop you from starting. But you're not your feelings. You're the one who watches them. You're the one who chooses what happens next. Most people forget that. They live like passengers in their own minds. They let feelings drive the car. They let panic hit the gas. They let rage grab the wheel. And then they wonder why life feels out of control. But you don't have to live that way. You can take the wheel back. You can sit in the driver's seat of your own mind. That's not cold. That's not distant. It's discipline. Discipline of the mind is what gives you freedom. Freedom to feel without drowning. Freedom to pause without panic. Freedom to act instead of react. The Stoics knew this. They practiced it daily. Not to impress anyone, not to look perfect, but because life is too short to live as a victim of your own feelings. You don't control the weather of your mind, but you can control how you meet it. You don't stop the waves. You learn how to surf. So tomorrow, when fear shows up, pause. When anger rises, breathe. When sadness pulls you under, remember, it's a wave. It's not you. Feel it fully, but don't let it lead. Lead it. Guide it. Thank it for the message, but choose your own response. That's strength. That's Stoic power. It's not about being perfect. It's about practicing. Practicing calm. Practicing courage. Practicing presence. One moment at a time. If you do that, you don't just manage emotions. You master them. And when you master your emotions, you master your life. This is a practice. It doesn't stop here. It starts now. And if you're ready to go deeper, there's more waiting for you. When you're ready, we'll be here.